Hi, in this particular video we're going to be looking at roughly grade 6 questions for GCSE Maths. Please do stop the video, have a go at each of the questions, compare your solutions. If you're not sure about anything, always add a comment. I'll come back to you. I'll look forward to seeing you inside the video.
Okay, so in this particular case we're going to be looking at roughly grade 6 type questions. Now it is a calculator test, however you can, there are a couple of questions which are non-calculator as well, like the first ones. Now I'm going to make assumptions with grade 6, so if you're not sure about anything I've done, please do add a comment below and I'll always come back to you. There are other playlists that you can have a look at if you're not sure about any question. Okay, so prove algebraically that the recurring decimal can be written as that. So basically what I'm going to say is that x equals 0.126126 recurring, which also means I can write 1000x equals 126.126126 and so on. Now if I take away the value of x, the whole idea is that I get rid of the recurring part of the sum. So therefore 126 all goes. What I actually get left with is 999x, which equals 126. Now it's just a case then of really manipulating that. So if I divide both sides by 999, what I end up with is x equals 126 over 999, and I can simplify that to 14 over 111, which is the answer to this particular question. Okay, hopefully that's okay for you. Please do work through that by stopping the video and having a go at each of these questions. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one. Now again, this is another one where really if you wanted to, you could put it straight into a calculator. However, you'll notice that it's got a negative index, so therefore that really means that it's going to be the reciprocal. So I can write that as 125 to the power of 2/3. Now what you'll know is that 2/3 is exactly the same as saying 1/3 multiplied by 2. So therefore I can write that as 1 over the cube root of 125. Remember that 125 to the power of 1/3 basically means the cube root, and then I can square it. Well, the cube root of 125 is going to be 5, so that's going to give me 1 over 5 squared, which will give me 1 over 25, which is your 2-mark answer to question number 2. Okay, so question number 3, again, if you wanted to, you could put it straight into a calculator. However, what I notice is I've got 2 times 128. Well, that's going to be 256, and I happen to know that the 4th root of 256 is actually going to be equal to 4. Okay, so it's 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, and I think the more you do these sorts of papers, the more you kind of get used to these sorts of things. Okay, so the final bit of this is I've got the value of 10 to the 12. Now as I mentioned before, you can say that's the power of a quarter. So if I multiply those indices together, I got 12 times a quarter, which is 10 to the power of 3. So as a value then it's going to be 4 with 3 decimal places afterwards, which is 4,000. Okay, so let's have a look then at number 4. There's 12 teams in a table tennis league. Each team will play against each other, and that's the important thing with these, against each other, because team A will play team B, C, D and so on all the way through to the other 11 teams. However, it also follows that each of those teams will have already played, so therefore effectively we've got to halve it, which is going to give us 132 over 2, which equals 66. Now if you're not sure about counting strategies, which is this particular topic, it is new for the 2016 curriculum, so please do let me know and I will do some more work on those sorts of questions. Okay, so let's have a look then at number 5. So Varsha invests 3,500 in a savings account. The introductory rate for the first year is 2%. So let's just stop at that particular point and find out how much Varsha has got at the end of the first year. Okay, so the first year she's going to have 3,500 multiplied by 1.02. Remember, we've got to use the decimal equivalent of 126. 102%. So at the end of the first year, she's got £3,570. And then basically the second and third years, okay, so what we're looking at is saying, well, actually, at the end of 3 years, Varsha has £3,677.90 as per the question. So she's got £3,677.90, and that's made up of her initial amount, which is 3,570, multiplied by whatever the value of x is, which is the multiplier to the power of 2. Okay, so if I want to rearrange that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the square root of 3677.90 divided by 3570, and that's going to give me the actual multiplier, which is 1.01499. Now again, as I mentioned before, this is the decimal equivalent, so it's actually 101.499%. I'll just actually write that out. So it's 101.499%. So to one decimal place, the actual value of x, or the interest that she's going to get, is going to be 1.5%, and that would be the answer to that particular question. Okay, so let's have a look then at another similar sort of question, where it's in this particular case, number of bacteria in a sample increases by X% every hour. The population is expected to double in 4 hours. So what we're basically saying is at the end of 4 hours, the population is 1,000 if it started at 500. And don't forget, that's the multiplier to the power of 4. Okay, so because it's 4 hours. So if I then say, well, actually, I'm going to work out the fourth root of 1,000 divided by 500, that's actually going to give me the decimal equivalent of the multiplier, which is going to be 1.1892, okay, which is exactly the same as saying 18.9% increase. So again, don't forget it's 118.9%, and that would be correct to 3 significant figures. Okay. All right, hopefully that's okay for you. Let's look then at question number 7. We're going to be working through all of this particular worksheet, so please do stop the video, have a go at each of these questions, compare your solutions. So line A passes through -2,0 and 2,10. So effectively what we've got is a straight line, okay, which goes through something in the region like that, where this is -2,0, and then somewhere up here is going to be 2,10. Okay, so what we need to do then is work out the equation of line B, which is parallel to line A, and that's the important thing, is that parallel basically means the same gradient. Okay, so what we've got to do is work out the gradient for line A. Well, the gradient for line A is going to be equal to, I would put y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Now, you might decide that you want to draw a triangle or something like that. It's perfectly fine. However, the way I would do it is I would say, well, this is y2, and therefore this is y1, this is x2, and this is therefore x1. And then really all I need to do is feed this directly into my calculation. Don't forget it's 2 minus -2, so it's going to be 2 plus 2, which is 4. So I'm going to get 10 over 4, which is going to be equal to, simplified, 5 over 2, or if you prefer, 2.5. Okay, I'm going to leave it as a fraction, because if I want to find the value of line B, I'm going to use the format y equals mx plus c, where m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. Well, I know the gradient is going to be 5 over 2. I also now know that I've got a line that passes through 0.67, so therefore I've got my value of x and my value of y. So I can say 7 equals 5 over 2 times my value of x, which is 6, plus c. Okay, and when I calculate that out, I get 7 equals 15 plus C, so therefore C is going to equal minus 8. So my actual equation of line B in the form y equals mx plus C is going to be equal to y equals 5 over 2x minus 8, and that would be the answer to question number 7. Okay, hopefully that's all right for you. Please do have stop the video, have a go at each of these questions. If you're not sure, always leave a message. Okay, so let's move on then to number 8, which doesn't really require a calculator, but it is part of the actual test, or part of the revision. Okay, so shading the region that satisfies these inequalities. Well, the first one is going to be x is less than minus 3. So what we're basically saying is that if we have a line along here, this particular line is going to be where x equals 3. So therefore the values of x are going to be less than that value. Okay, similarly with y equals minus 3 is a line that goes along here. Now actually you'll notice that I did a dotted line the first time round for x is less than 3. Now I've just spotted that y is greater than or equal to, so the common convention is to make that a solid line where y equals 3, and it's actually going to be above that because it's greater than or equal to minus 3. Okay, so the final bit that we need to work out is going to be the line y equals 3x minus 1. So y equals 3x minus 1. Well, what I would do is just a very quick grid. Values of x, values of y. So if x is 0, x is say 3, and x is going to be minus 3, what are the values of y? Well, if x is 0, 3 times 0 is 0, and then y is going to equal minus 1. If x is 3, 3 times 3 is 9, 9 minus 1 is going to be 8. If x is minus 3, then 3 times minus 3 is minus 9, minus 1 is minus 10. So now I've got these coordinates that I can plot directly onto the screen itself. So 0 minus 1, I hope this will show up on the video, is going to be here. I'll make it sort of nice and big there. 3, 8 is going to be all the way up here. Okay, and then I've got minus 3, minus 10 is going to be right at the bottom here. Hopefully that will be okay for you. So therefore, when I actually draw in this line, now I'm going to draw it again as a solid line because it includes the values. Hopefully I'll be able to draw this relatively straight, not brilliant, but it'll give you at least some idea that this is the line y equals 3x minus 1, and the values of y are going to be less than or equal to. So actually putting everything together, the inequality that will satisfy, or the region that will satisfy the inequalities, is this central triangle. Okay, so hopefully that's all right for you. There's quite a few videos on the channel regarding inequalities, so let me know and I can put you in touch with the playlist there. Okay, so let's have a look then at question number 9. This again is a grade 6 type question. Well, they all are really. So this is mathematically similar objects. Okay, now really what you're looking for is kind of working out, in this particular case, we've got a linear enlargement of 2.5. So in other words, 25 centimeters is 2.5 times bigger than 10 centimeters. So effectively what we've got is the scale factor, which we'll call K, is a linear scale factor of 2.5, but it also follows that the area scale factor is going to be 2.5 squared. The volume scale factor is going to be 2.5 cubed. So if I know the volume of cylinder B is 75 centimeters cubed, then to work out the volume of cylinder A, what I need to do is effectively divide by the volume scale factor. So it's going to be 75 divided by 2.5 cubed. Okay, if you put that into the calculator, you should get 4.8 centimeters cubed, which is the volume of cylinder A. Okay, so we're on to the final final two questions here for this particular worksheet. I hope it's useful to you. Let's move on then to Mrs. Jones. So Mrs. Jones recorded the test results of the students in her maths group. Here are the results. Okay, so one of the areas here with this is we need to make sure, if working out the range, that we write everything in order. Now, a little bit tricky, you just got to make sure that you get this right. So this is going to be 50, and then we've got 51, okay, and then we've got 54, which is right at the very beginning there, okay, and then we've got 56. Now, I normally would check this several times. I have done as I've been working through this, okay, but you can see here what I'm doing is I'm underlining them as I actually write them, because it just means then that I can cross them out. I'm also aware that there are actually 11 numbers. Okay, so therefore I would count them out right at the very end to make sure that I've got the same amount of numbers available to me. Okay, so that's going to be 76, then the final one is 95. Okay, so the range is basically the largest number, take away the smallest number, so that's going to be 95 minus 50, which is going to equal 45. So fairly straightforward once you get those in order. Then it says work out the interquartile range. Now, there are a couple of different ways of doing this. I personally prefer to use, if I can, a little formula, and that is that the lower quartile is going to be a quarter n plus 1. So it's the number of numbers plus 1. Okay, well, the number of numbers is 11, so 11 plus 1 is going to be 12, so it's going to be a quarter of 12. So that basically means that the third number along is actually going to be the lower quartile, which if we look on the actual list above us, that's going to be 54. Okay, and that would be the first number we need. The upper quartile is going to be 3/4 of n plus 1, which is 3/4 of 12, so basically it's equal to the 9th number. Okay, and if you count those along, that's actually going to be 75. Now, I'm very aware that there are other ways of doing this. This is the way I personally prefer to do it, but I do appreciate that other people might cross out numbers and do all sorts of things. Okay, so the interquartile range is going to be equal to the highest number, take away the lowest number, 75, minus 54, which is going to equal 21, and that would be the answer to question number 10. Okay, on to the final question on this particular worksheet. I know it's actually 11 questions, but it does work out as a total of 30 marks. So if you've got good marks on this, then very well done to you. You know, you should be working at relatively close to a grade 6, possibly even a 7. Okay, so let's have a look then at how we're going to work with this. Well, we need to calculate the area, and in order to do that, the only way we're going to do that is by working out the angle of the sector itself. So it's this angle here. Okay, so with a circle, what I would always kind of advise you to do is write out the actual formulas. There's so many times I see students where they don't remember the formulas for the circumference, which is pi d, and the area equals pi r squared. Okay, so let's have a look at the circumference of this particular circle. So if it was the full circle, it's going to be equal to 16 pi. Okay, because the diameter is 16, so it's 2 lots of the radius, and it's going to be multiplied by pi to get the whole circumference. So in order for us to work out the angle, I'm going to call this angle alpha. Okay, so angle alpha is going to equal to the part that we know, which is 12 centimeters of the arc, over the absolute total value of the arc, which is 16 pi, of 360 degrees. And if you put that into your calculator, what you're going to get is that the angle alpha is going to be 85.94 degrees. And then really it's just a case of using that information to calculate the area. Well, as we know, the area equals pi r squared. However, what we've got is 85.94 degrees out of 360 degrees multiplied by pi multiplied by the radius squared. Put all that into your calculator and you should get 48 centimeters squared as the total area. Okay, hopefully that's been all right for you. You might get a slightly different answer. I've used 85.94, but if you carried on that calculation, then it would be a few decimal places additional, but it works out at 48 more or less to whole numbers. Okay, I hope this particular worksheet's been useful to you. Please do subscribe, add a comment. I'll always come back to you. I look forward to seeing you inside the next video.
Okay, so I hope the video was useful to you. Please do subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to look at any specific topics, and I'll see you inside the next video.